which is, there's these two dads raising a kid in Tennessee. The biological father dies, and in the 6 years they were together, and their kid is 6 years old, he had never changed his will. And so the custody of the kid goes to the sister. And the rest of the film is basically about this father trying to find a way back into his kid's life. And it's hard to describe it because you can't get around the fact that the biological father dies. But like a lot of the movie, I can tell you every single event that happens, and I hope when you watch the movie you'll still be surprised. Because like you said earlier about marriage, it's not really about that topic, that event. It's about the experience. It's about these nuances of character and behavior that surround these events. I'd been in the editing suite, so I knew I could look at myself objectively. But I had no idea if I could really act and direct in the same project. And so I tested myself, kind of like, you have a little setup here. I would set up a camera, and I would act out a scene. I'd go back, watch it, see what I didn't like, see if I could give myself direction, see if I could actually affect that direction. And I tried it a couple times, and I convinced myself I could do it. Then I think it's the nature of this particular project. I was willing to do it because we had a lot of time. And so I basically rehearsed with just myself for 5 months. And then I also had a tool that a lot of directors don't have, which I knew would be useful with the kid, but ended up being useful with a lot of the adult actors too, which is I could direct from within the scene. If something was going in a slightly different direction, I could pull it back into something that, or change the rhythm just a little bit within character, within the scene. And I think that was very efficient on set, because then pretty much every take is usable. I think a lot of the details are out of the blue, so it makes kind of that part of the interview sometimes very uninteresting. But there are very personal connections and kind of more spiritual inspirations. And I think that one of them is I had met Evan Wolfson, who is this great civil rights attorney. And he wrote this book called Why Marriage Matters. And he had a very interesting idea, which is that, you put forth the idea of two men getting married, two women getting married, and there's going to be a lot of people uncomfortable with it. It's very natural for them as a first instinct to be very uncomfortable. But they have other instincts and other things within them too, one of which is a real desire to be fair. And so he said, you appeal to that desire to be fair, and eventually that can win out over this initial discomfort that people have. And so that kind of, and that leads you to, you tell the story. You tell the story of how life is harder for some people in kind of a needless way. And I think another thing is I also have, I have certain heroes in the world. People who they just seem to be able to make good decisions. I wanted to put that on screen so that I could remember that. But I think maybe some other people will get something out of that too. From the same kinds of people, same kinds of very, very beautiful approach to life. It's about people. It's just this distant, and families. Family dynamics are they're complicated, and what happens when one person who is kind of the center of things disappears suddenly, and then all the dynamics shift. How we seem to move forward, but then we move backwards again. Things we thought we had gotten over, we don't anymore. And then also one of the things I really love is this idea that you could be by someone all the time, spend all this time with someone and never really know them. There's just not a lot of opportunities in our life to tell some of the very personal things, for me to sit down here and talk about my dad, this happened with my mom, to tell about how I felt when I first fell in love or something like that. We just don't have those opportunities, and we miss these parts of people. And I think that that's a big part of the movie, is how much is not said, how much we miss, how much we misinterpret. And it was a real place, Martin, Tennessee, and kind of as they told me little things about the town, I kind of liked it. It seemed like a town I have a lot of affection for. It's not huge, it's not tiny. There's the world. It's pretty open. There's a division of the University of Tennessee there. It just seemed like an interesting place to set something kind of neutral, a place not many people have any association with. People have association with Tennessee, it may be like Nashville, Memphis, or Appalachia, but this kind of more remote, quieter Western Tennessee town just felt like a lot was possible there. And I didn't know much about it, and so it kind of, I thought maybe the audience would be in the same place. They didn't know quite as much about it, so they might be a little more open.